Smarties, welcome to the final episode of our 4-part series all about accommodations. In episode 347, we chat about what accommodations are, why they're important, and common misconceptions about them. And then 2 weeks ago in episode 348, we discussed why some accommodations don't work the way they're intended, despite the best of intentions. And then in last week's episode 349, we began our conversation about our favorite accommodations. Today is the finality of that conversation. You're going to hear our last 5 favorite accommodations, what we love about them, and why. If you are interested in partnering with us at our practices, please don't hesitate to sign up for our phone call. Steph's practice is M.Ed Therapist, and her website is www.myedtherapist.com. Her practice does all the things with learners of all ages. They see learners in person in their offices in Redondo Beach and Manhattan Beach, California, and virtually everywhere. And my practice is CappEdTherapy.com, and you can sign up for a phone call there. And we specialize in learners with executive functioning skills challenges, 5th grade through adulthood. Let's dig in.
You want to learn faster, but sometimes working harder is just not the answer. You have to learn smarter. The Educational Therapy Podcast.
Hi, Smarties. Welcome to episode 350 of Learn Smarter, the Educational Therapy Podcast. I'm Stephanie Pitts.
Wow, I'm Rachel Kapp, 350. And you still owe me a spa day from episode 300.
I'm aware.
Okay.
It will be coming.
I deserve nice things, Steph. You need to treat me like the lady I am.
See how we're married, you guys? I don't know how I became the man in the relationship, though.
I don't know either.
Let me preface that with, I'm not, really into traditional gender roles, but, you know, for the joke.
Yeah, for the joke.
Anyway.
No, we're very progressive people over here at
We
Learn
are progressive
Smarter.
people. Yeah, anyway.
We live in California, everyone. All right. So, do you want to share my accommodation that you just said?
Yes, because you have an accommodation.
For recording the podcast.
Very necessary.
Yeah.
So, you guys, Rachel gets distracted by her email.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
It is.
Yeah.
She will see something, whereas I'm the type of person where I see it and I go, I don't want to look at that. She'll look at something that says this podcast or this something or other. And then she'll look at the pictures and then do a deep dive into what it is, who's involved, etc. So this gets, while very helpful in some scenarios, it's not helpful when we're recording.
And it's not helpful when I'm trying to get a project done too, because my email interrupts me the way it interrupts everybody. Not everybody can be as cool as Steph and have that level of self-control.
Yeah, you get mad at me sometimes because I don't check. If I know what the email is and I don't have time to deal with it, I just leave it there. I don't even open it.
And I'll be like, did you see this? Obviously, Steph and I are on a lot of joint emails, and
yeah,
I tend to respond faster. And sometimes, I think you see them and you're like, Rachel will handle it. And so you wait on it, waiting for me to handle it.
Well, yeah, you're going to handle it. So I don't know why that's even a question. That's just understood.
That's understood. When there's a tech problem, we were having issues with episodes releasing.
Yeah, so there were a couple of weeks that the podcast wasn't going up, and there were emails about it, which you were like, oh, stuff will handle. Yeah.
Not only were there emails about it, but I archived them. I didn't even bother reading them because I didn't understand. And you were giving me frustration updates.
Yeah, it was really bad, you guys.
You weren't giving me updates about the tech stuff. You were giving me your level of annoyance about this. And I literally
yeah, because I couldn't solve it.
I'm super helpful. I'm like, why don't you go ask in this group? A Facebook group or whatever. Or I'm like, do we need to hire somebody? Where do we find, I'm not being helpful at all.
No, and then I was like, I don't know who to hire because I can't figure out what the problem is.
Exactly.
Anyway, we got there. The podcast is fixed. But going back to Rachel's accommodation, we all have them, right?
Yes.
But Rachel, I love how vulnerable you are with these kinds of things because they do work.
Yeah.
So we have an extension on our email that you can pause your inbox. And when we record,
I have to pause my personal and business inbox.
It brings her back into the conversation. For her, it's not closing the tab,
It's not enough.
right? It has to be stopped. So that's the accommodation.
Steph, have we talked about my game?
On the podcast?
I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast.
Maybe once, when you deleted it.
Oh, it's been back for months. We'll talk about it in a future episode.
Yeah,
but I've had
yeah.
to put some strict boundaries around myself.
Okay.
And my town.
Okay. She's having feelings. You guys, back in the day, when she got to the level of Candy Crush that she wanted to get to, she had a Candy Crush party.
Listen, I beat Candy Crush.
Yeah.
Like, please don't try to minimize
I'm
my
not minimizing it. It was a big thing, and you got there.
It was a big thing. The goal was to get to the end of Candy Crush so that there were no more new levels.
Yes.
And I did it. I did it in 2015.
And you got a new couch.
Couch Party was a different party.
Oh, I thought it was Couch and Candy Crush Party.
No, we had Candy Crush Party, and my whole apartment was decorated in candy theme.
Yeah, I mean, which is adorable.
It was so fun. And then I had like a poster board where people could write their level that they were on in Candy Crush.
I never played it.
What?
I've never played it.
That's fine.
You can judge me. Okay.
And then there was candy necklaces. And I
so
went
cute.
all out. I went all out. And then 6 months later, I got a new couch. So I threw another party for my new couch.
Oh, I remember those days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on. So Rachel's accommodation is extremely helpful for her. So those are just some life accommodations.
Yep.
Moving on.
And a friend accommodation is when you have your friend say, "Are you in your email? Put it on pause, please."
That is not in the episode, but happened prior to what you hear. Yes. All
right.
Okay. So let's go. We talked about 1 through 5 in last week's episode. So let's start with number 6 on our list of favorite accommodations.
Technology accommodations. So undoubtedly, if we are talking to a learner or to parents of a learner, really if their kid is 6th grade and older, they are asking us about tech.
Yeah.
And their learners' social media use or their interaction with technology.
Mm-hmm.
Because parents want to limit.
And their dependence on technology.
So parents want to limit technology typically. And our approach is really like, how do we learn to live with this?
Mm-hmm.
So, Steph, what are some of our favorite accommodations?
So sometimes it's the opposite effect, and teachers don't want any technology in the classroom.
Yes.
And some kids need to be able to type for note taking. There are a lot of students who are extremely slow at writing, and it's hard for them to actually write the letters. And so typing takes out that barrier that makes it so painful for them. So being able to type and have access to a laptop or an iPad or something like that is extremely helpful. And the second one, I'm going to preface this with, I'm saying it, but I'm not always a fan of it.
Okay.
Using apps for task management, reminders, and study aids. Okay.
Okay. We have feelings.
I have feelings.
It has to be done in the right way, and we have challenges with them. Okay, so go ahead.
Sometimes we get too many apps going and you don't know where anything is or how it's working and whatnot. Literally, I have a client who was trying to use reminders and trying to use a different app and all of these things. And I literally had my client set up a regular alarm on their phone.
Yep.
Because it's so easy to dismiss those reminders. But you can't dismiss an actual wake up alarm that's labeled the same way.
Yep.
So I'm saying this because some kids really do well with the Pomodoro method of studying for a certain amount of minutes and then off and on and off and on. And there are apps that do that automatically for them, and they don't have to put in the 25 minutes and then the 5-minute break and whatnot. And some kids benefit from that. But a lot of kids also do not benefit from that. So what I'm saying is know your learner. And if it gets too messy and complicated, it's too much. Don't use all the things. So that being said, also digital versions of textbooks. I think that this is wonderful because the digital version, number one, they can access it anywhere. Number two, you can take it and have it text to speech so they can actually have it read to them, which is helpful. Number three, you can take a digital textbook and create a PDF of it. And if you're helping with summarizing or they don't understand something, you can upload it to ChatGPT. And that can help you discern what is going on and what you don't understand. So why is this effective? It helps students work at a pace that feels good to them and it actually works. And you can take the material and adapt it to what they need. Not every kid needs all of those things or any of those things, but some do. So what's the next one?
The next one are social and emotional supports. So obviously we should have said this earlier in the episode, but these all depend on the learner and the age of the learner. But access to a trusted adult or counselor for structured emotional check-ins that the student genuinely has a connection with can be really, really meaningful. For kids who are struggling with social skills, we can get that social skills training through speech or structured peer interactions with the teacher. And then, of course, positive behavior reinforcement plans. The goal is to support students' emotional well-being and their peer relationship.
For sure. Another accommodation might be when a kid might not have many friends and there's unstructured time during the day. So lunchtime, a break time, and the kid doesn't know where to go and what to do. An accommodation might be that they could go to the counselor's office or a teacher's classroom and spend that unstructured time there. This can be extremely helpful. So having that understood so that the student doesn't struggle and hate those moments of the unstructured time and who to sit with and where to go and all of that can be really effective. So the next one, homework and assignment accommodations. So some examples, reduced homework load or modified assignments. What does that mean? That means instead of 25 problems, it's 10 math problems. Or instead of having to do all the questions on a comprehension assignment, they only have to do one part of it or something like that. Or they only have to do every other problem or something along those lines. It's making it so that it's reduced or having fewer things on the page. They could still have the same amount, but it's fewer on each page. So those are some modified or reduced assignments that can really help. Sometimes additional time for long-term assignments might be needed.
And that's giving the assignment even earlier, not necessarily
extending the deadline.
Extending a deadline.
Exactly. I like it. And then the other thing is clear chunked tasks for multi-step things like a project, right? So it might be by this date, you need to have this done, or by this date, this needs to be done, or you should be here around now, or a check-in with the teacher about where they are, things like that.
Or increase communication with parents and their team, depending on the age.
Yep, there's a lot of ways to help make this more feasible for students. So why is it effective? It helps them balance the schoolwork and they know what they need to do when they need to do it and when they need to do it. Because it's very hard. What do you do when you don't know what to do?
How to find it.
Yeah, how do you find it? Where do you start? What do you need to do first? Things like that are extremely helpful. Reduce overwhelm.
Yep. And then number 9 is talking about transitions and making a plan for learners who struggle with transitions. Maybe they need extra time to pack up their things at the end of the day. Maybe they need an extra check-in with the teacher to make sure they have the 3 things that they were responsible for bringing home.
Yeah. Extra time to write down their homework.
Extra time to write down their homework. Or advanced warning of schedule changes. Obviously, that's not always possible, but sometimes it is. And it can be giving a learner who struggles with transitions a heads up.
Like when there's an earthquake drill in California.
Yeah. Or giving them a heads up of class is going to be meeting in a different location next time.
Yeah.
I haven't let everybody know, but I'm giving you the heads up.
Yep.
Can be really, really meaningful. And then, of course, visual cues, visual checklists, prompts for transitions can also help reduce the anxiety and confusion of transitions, especially with students who maybe are more black and white and a little more rigid and less flexible.
Yeah, for sure. And what's the last one?
Number 10.
So parent, teacher, ed therapist, counselor, all the collaborations. Having regular communication between home and school, whether that's daily, weekly, what's going on in a classroom, clear expectations about progress, that a student might be having a really good day or had a really tough transition today or things like that. Parent involvement in reviewing accommodations and are they effective? This is what we go back to. there's a lot of accommodations, but sometimes they are not working as intended. So checking in about, is it working? Why is it working? Is it not working? Why isn't it working? What is the goal? This gives consistency and gets everybody on the same page because everyone ultimately has the same goal, but someone might be seeing something very different at school than what they're seeing at home. And there's a lot of miscommunication that happens. And the more that we can communicate what's going on with the student and how they are moving through their day and night, the more information, the better and more helpful it is for the teachers, for the counselors, for the parents, and for us as a therapist as well.
Mm-hmm. With that, we hope you've enjoyed these last 4 episodes on all about accommodations, and have a great week.
Have a great week.